to what's called factoring trinomials. And we are pretty much going to undo everything that we did in the last lesson. I like to call this the Jeopardy situation, where we start with the answer to a problem and we need to find out what the question is. We start with the answer to a multiplication problem and we need to figure out what items are being multiplied together to get that. So before we do that, let's review what we did in the last video where we multiplied binomials. When we multiplied binomials, we took two sets of parentheses, each with two binomials, and we made sure that everything in the first binomial gets multiplied by everything in the second binomial. And I don't know if you noticed, but every time we did that, we always ended up with an x squared term up here in the upper left-hand corner. We always ended up with a whole number in the bottom right-hand corner, or the constant, the number that didn't have the variable. And in the bottom left and the upper right, we ended up with a factor that was a combination of a number and a variable. And I'm just kind of filling in this and giving us the final answer, which is x squared plus 7x plus 10. So that was the process to multiply the two binomials. Now what we're going to do is the process to undo the multiplication of two binomials. So in order to do that, you have to fill in the box with the information that you already know. You know you have the x squared, and it always went in the upper left-hand corner. You know that you have the negative 15 for your constant, which always landed in the lower right-hand corner. Now what we need to do is be able to figure out how we're going to get the numbers that we need to fill in the other two squares that are still open. Well, in order to do that, it's kind of like a process of elimination. We know that it takes x times x to get x squared. Now what we need to decide is, what do we multiply together to get negative 15? Well, we have a variety of ways to do that. We could have negative 5 times 3. We could have 5 times negative 3. Negative 1 times 15. Or 1 times negative 15. And we could try all four of these combinations if we wanted, or we can try the combinations until we get the one that works. And because I put the negative 5 and the 3 on the top, I'm just going to use them first. It doesn't matter if I put the negative 5 down here or if I would put it on the top of the box. It won't make a difference. So now I need to see if I have the right combination. It's kind of like finding the combination to unlock your locker. If they didn't tell you, you got to find it. So now x times 3 would give me a 3x, and x times negative 5 gives me negative 5x. Is that the combination that I need to add up to a positive 2x? Okay, this is the number that we're missing right here in the middle. We kind of skipped past that when we started to fill in our box, and I did that for a reason. I knew that I had the x squared value to fill in. I knew that I had the negative 15. I just didn't know what it would take to fill in that positive 2, because that middle term, just like over here, the positive 7x, was a result of what we got when we combined 2x and 5x. Same thing is true over here. That positive 2x is a result of what you get when you combine, in this case, negative 5 and 3. Well, when we combine negative 5 and 3, we don't get positive 2. So that tells me that I should not have used negative 5 and positive 3. What I do get when I combine negative 5 and 3x is I do get a negative 2x. So I'm on the right track because I have the right number. I just don't have the right sign. So when you do finally get the right number but not the right sign, that tells you that you did not choose to put the right signs on the right numbers when you filled them in originally. So here I'm going to have the positive 5. And over here I need to have the negative 3. So now, changing the signs on these, my positive 5x would be here. Now I have a negative 3x here. And when I combine positive 5x and negative 3x, I get a positive 2x. That leaves me with my final answer. And where do we find our final answer? Well, our final answer is found on the left and on the top of the box. The factors of x squared plus 2x minus 15 are x plus 3, or x plus 5, I'm sorry, x plus 5 times x minus 3. Those factors are what we would multiply together to give us x squared plus 2x minus 15. Okay, another example. I don't know if the colors help you or not, but they might. X squared goes in the upper left-hand quarter, and I know that it takes x times x to get that. My constant is positive 12, and my constant always seemed to land down here. Now I need to think of the combinations that I multiply together to get a positive 12. I've got 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and I also have the possibility of doing a negative times a negative in all of those combinations. Some of you eventually you'll get very skilled at picking out the combination that works right from the beginning. I like to choose combinations that are usually pretty close together. Now, looking at the original problem kind of helps me eliminate some of my possibilities. I see that I have a positive 12, and over here on the left I've listed all the combinations that could give me a positive 12 when I multiply. I want to choose the combination that I know is going to guarantee that I'm going to get a positive 7. So these combinations I don't think are going to give me a positive 7 when I combine. So I'm going to stick to the ones on the top that when I add together will give me a positive combination. And I'm going to choose the 3 and the 4. So I'm going to put a positive 3 here and a positive 4 here. Now I want to check to see, will those actually give me a positive 7 when I add them together? Positive 3x is what I get when I do 3 times x. Positive 4x is what I get when I do 4 times x. And when I add those two together, I get a positive 7x, which is exactly what I have in the middle. So then to find my answer, I need to look along the left-hand side and along the top of the box. X plus 4 times x plus 3. And those are the binomials that I would multiply together to get x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, another example. I've got x squared plus x minus 20. So I know my x squared goes here, and it's x times x. I know my negative 20 goes here. I just don't know what's going to fill in those spots. I know some combinations of numbers that will give me a negative 20, negative 1 and positive 20, or 1 times negative 20, negative 2 times 10, or 2 times negative 10, negative 4 times 5, or 4 times negative 5. I need the combination that is going to give me a positive 1 in the middle. So I'm going to look for the ones that maybe are closer together. I only get to a positive 1. The numbers that are 1 unit apart are the negative 4 and 5, or 4 and negative 5. And I'm going to try I'm going to try the combination that adds up to a positive 1, which would be positive 5, negative 4. So negative 4x is what I get when I do negative 4 times x. 5x is what I get when I do positive 5 times x. When I combine those together, I end up with a positive 1x, which is exactly what I had in the original problem in front of x, a positive 1x. So that tells me that my factors are x plus 5 times x minus 4. Okay, good. And the last example. I know that to get x squared, I multiply x times x, and I have x squared minus 2x minus 35. And I know that my constant, the negative 35 in this case, always ends up in the bottom right-hand corner in my multiplication box. Now, what are the combination of numbers that I can multiply together to get a negative 35? Well, that would be negative 1 times 35, 1 times negative 35, negative 5 times 7, 5 times negative 7. And I'm just going to start with the -5 and the +7. Okay, when I do that, I have 7x because x times 7, -5x because of x times -5. When I combine those two, they give me a +2x. Not quite what I need. I need to get a -2x because that's what's the middle term of the trinomial. So I have the right number. I've got the 2, I just don't have the right sign. So that tells me that instead of having a -5 and a +7, I should have had a +5. Whoops, I don't know why I erased that negative sign. And a -7. Now, how that changes this, this one becomes the negative, this one becomes the positive, and that gives me the -2x that I want. So then my solution to this factoring of this trinomial, x plus 5, which is the binomial along the left side of the box, and x minus 7 multiplied together.